Hello everyone. So this week's beautiful mini coaching tip is it follows on from last week's where we were talking about the stopgap, the sticking point and the liminal space. So it follows on from that. So you've got that understanding that maybe you're stuck or just you've got that understanding that maybe you want to move into something, you want to change direction, you want to move forward in a different way. Yet you hit fear. And now I'm not talking about the bog standard fear here. I'm talking about the areas of fear that come up around us, and they're quite visceral. They're very palpable. We can actually feel them. They're not. The word fear doesn't actually accurately describe them. It doesn't give us the message that we need to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently guide us through this and some of the things that might happen and see if we can find some tips and tools and solutions around them. So now the first one is the fear of shining. So you maybe within your household or your family, you dimmed your light and you become so good and you're a little bit of a star at dimming your light, then trying to move into a new area for yourself is really tricky because you're so prone to dimming your light. So as you try to move forward, you'll feel fear. This isn't real fear, actually. What it is actually a form of excitement. But because your protection mechanism was put in space and in a place to dampen excitable, more loud, maybe more bright areas of you, you find it difficult to move down that pathway. So what I would suggest with that one, if you are hitting that kind of stuck point because you're afraid of success. Now, let me tell you something before we move on though, before I get to the actual thing that you can do. You might also find that you might think you're afraid of success. You might actually think you're afraid of failure, but they are actually one and the same thing. They're kind of polar opposites to each other. So it doesn't matter which way you're labeling it to yourself. You're pretty much in that same energy field, okay? So the way to get out of that one, so the fear of failure or the fear of success, which like I say is pretty much the same energy system, is to say to yourself, okay, this feels a little bit yucky and a bit tricky for me, but I'm going to take the smallest step I can. When I say the smallest step, so say you want to, for example, learn to drive. So you are just going to find out what's available. You're literally going to go online and find out what kind of driving schools are available in your area. Maybe write a few driving instructors down, but that's all you're going to do. You have to take these steps really slowly if you're in that fear response, because otherwise what your body will do is it will stop you from making that step forward. That you'll be stuck, you'll stay in your stuck place because you'll feel a fear of that new energy, okay? Especially if you've been dimming your light, And more than often, if you fear failure and you fear success, then you have been dimming your light. You probably have done that from a childhood. Now, I did want to say as well, what happens and how we end up in that dimming our lights arena. Often what happens is during childhood, you may have expressed a delight in something and had it dampened down. That would force you to probably stick it into what we call the golden shadow. So if you put it in your golden shadow, it will be quite tricky to bring it out because you feel it's safest if it's in shadow aspect. However, in order to move through all of our areas, all of our life, and to sort of grow and evolve, the best thing for us to do is to embrace those changes and to move through them. Now, the next one is like this fear response is different. It's the fear response of thinking that it's going to be hard, okay? So you think, oh, well, if I'm going to do that, often what happens is maybe you have decided that you want your life always to be easy. So you take the simplest pathway, you avoid anything that might give you a challenge, you avoid anything that might test you in any way. So your life becomes quite simple and simplistic, okay? But then you hit a point where you think, actually, I need to go that way, but you start avoiding it. Now, what happens is you can end up in one of those stuck places I talked about last week if you avoid this call. So you have the call, yet you still feel this, I can't go there, I'm not going to go there. The reason is because you know that it might challenge you. Now, this is This one is more of a sort of, we need to understand life in all of its entirety, right? You're going to sometimes have to face challenges. If you really want to evolve as a human and evolve as a soul, then challenges are part of that evolution. They're part of that development. Saying to yourself, I'm not going down that road because it might be tricky and it might hurt, means that you keep yourself really tethered. It's almost like a type of bondage. You're binding yourself to a limited life, and limited framework is going to make you feel, you'll probably find yourself in a sticking point eventually, and then the sticking point will lead to a stopgap because you'll want to make a change. So it's about kind of preempting that and making that step before it starts to feel difficult. Often when we get to this space and we are the type of person that always wants a life that's peaceful and doesn't have any challenge in it, we're afraid to take that step because we know it was going to test us. We know it's going to mean saying yes when we really want to say no. We know that it's going to mean doing things that we may be slightly afraid of, but know that they're going to grow, help us to grow and give us excitement. You see, rather than looking at fear for this one, I would say step into excitement. So tell yourself, this is a joyful thing for me to step out of my comfort zone. You see, in order to grow, because this is all about growth, it's all about evolution, we need to allow ourselves to step out of our comfort zone, to take those risks. You know, those risks can be as small as going to your local fitness club, going to a gym. It could be as simple as even calling them up and saying, what kind of packages do you have? Is there any way I can do a trial period? You know, or going to your local dance class. These things are ways of pulling you out of your comfort zone, and they help you to evolve. It sounds simplistic, I know, yet the thing is, when we start making those small tweaks in our lives, then it helps us to make bigger tweaks in other areas of our lives. So then your food choices might be able to change a little bit, or you might feel that at work you're able to take on a little bit more responsibility. All of these things help us, but the only way to evolve is to walk through that fear, is to start moving through that fear. And as I say, it can be very, very gentle. So you've got those two things. I mean, there are many, many more fear points. I'm not going to discuss them all today because there's so many of them, right? But these two are the ones that we're going to look at today, right? So just take very gentle steps. And when I say gentle, they are so gentle. So let's say I had one this week. It was such a small thing. All I had to do was go online and check if a book that I'd ordered was coming, because I'd ordered a book to learn about something. So I just ordered the book, and it was that simple. And now I'm just waiting for the book to come. It can be so small. The steps can be so tiny. But those tiny steps create big waves in the end. They really help us to shift forward. Now I want to bring us to a couple of my blogs, because there's some information in my self-love self-care system blog. So if you go on my website, you can go to my blogs, and there's some blogs there that might give you some more information around this if you're interested. What I might do is put them in the information for you as well, so you've got them. So look, that is today's mini coaching tip. I hope it's helped some of you. Do take care of yourselves. Have an absolutely lovely week. Namaste, everyone. I'm sending you all so much love. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.